Houston's community station.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. We are going to have a great program today. How is everybody doing? How's that drive going? How is that waking up and getting, as my daughter used to say when she was a baby, getting those crocodiles out of your eyes? You know, that scratchy thing out of your eyes. Wake up, folks. We have a great show. We have an important show. We have four important subjects, but specifically one that I want to talk about today. And, but beforehand, let me salute the great folks in the control room, Howard Reynolds and Jack Van Beber. How are my peeps doing this morning?
Well, we're still looking for the great folks in the control room. Have you seen them, Jack?
They left this morning.
Okay.
Oh, they left this morning? Well, it sounds to me like
I'm the janitor in charge here.
Nah. We got great people in there. Jack, give me the word of the morning. Get my blood flowing, sir.
Okay, you know how they're using anger and fear to supply us with enough anger to be mad at our brother. So this one is anger and fear are two hungry dogs. Be careful what you feed them.
Hey,
are they chihuahuas or are they really big dogs?
Howard is going to come back
anger
with
and fear can be a big dog.
Okay, like a
Howard.
German Shepherd or a lab. Yes.
How could you mess up as such an insightful thing the guy came up with that. I was about to say powerful. And you ask him a damn chihuahua.
You still can. You still can.
You're right. You're right.
Hey, Egberto?
Yes, sir.
We have a very important announcement here. The Southwest Freeway coming toward the spur here at 529 is closed down because there was a major accident this morning around 2:00, a fatality accident and fire. God. So if you are traveling in on the Southwest Freeway from the Loop towards town, you're going to hit a big delay. The chances are that you're going to be stopped. Use the alternate methods if you can to get in. Just wanted to let you know about that.
That is so important news, and that's what we are here to do, folks. Don't forget, the telephone number is, I won't forget to start this morning by saying, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Please, today we only have one short video that I am going to be showing. Otherwise, we have a lot of talking on these particular issues. Or would love your involvement on these issues. So 713-526-5738 is the number, extension number 2 to get on air immediately. Repitiendo, 713-526-5738. Again, good morning. Title of the show today, very important title if I can get to it, is Paxton trial set. We may talk about that if we have some time. Ted Lieu exposes Russia collusion. We are going to play that somewhere in the middle. Property taxes. That's where I would like to spend some time on. I'd like to get some questions. I'd like to get some suggestions, etc. If we are all, anybody who owns a home pays property taxes. But what a lot of folks don't realize is those who rent indirectly are paying property taxes as well. And PFAS lawsuit settled. A good friend of our program sent a note from, I think it was a New York Times, an article about the settlement, the PFAS settlement. That those are permanent chemicals that's left in the ground, etc. Well, the companies who put those there are kind of wanting to pay up. I don't think it's a good resolution, but in a corporate state, what happens? Anyhow, Texas Attorney General will meet his fate soon. Actually, September 5th is when this trial starts. Ted Lieu exposes Durham and Russian collusion. Should we lower property taxes? Is the PFAS lawsuit resolution another gift to corporations? Anyhow, folks, please remember there are several ways to get our program. You can tune in on the dial, 90.1 FM Houston. Just dial it to 90.1 FM and you'll hear us at the studio. You can also download the TuneIn application from your Android or Apple store. You can also go to kpft.org, our website, kpft.org, and just click the listen button and you can listen to us live. Welcome to the program Make FU Up 52 on, I think you're listening through Twitch. Yeah, you're listening through Twitch. Thank you for being here. Likewise, you have facebook.com/KPFT Houston. You can listen to us at Facebook. You can listen and watch us at facebook.com/KPFT Houston. And of course, you can, once you go to Twitch or any one of these other platforms, we are streaming there live, as well as Make FU Up 52 knows, as he is listening from Twitch right now. You can also listen to us on YouTube by going to politicsdoneright.tv, politicsdoneright.tv. Please remember, if you have anything that you want me to cover, if you have complaints about things that I've said, if you have kudos about things that I've said, if you like what I've said, if you don't like what I've said, you can always drop me a line at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. That is kpft@politicsdoneright.com. I'm a good listener. I don't take offense to anything anybody tells me. There's nothing you can say that will somehow destroy my whatever. So feel free to tell me whatever it is, whatever your thoughts are. I always think that transparency, truth, all that is always best. So again, kpft@politicsdoneright.com if there's something that you'd like to say, something you'd like to tell me. Okay, let's go ahead and start the program with property taxes. Why tax policy experts fear, and this was keyed off of something I heard in passing, and then I went and did some research on it last night, and I said, it's to me, it's a shame that there are a lot of subjects that we don't cover in detail that has a material effect on your personal economy, that has a material effect on how much money you're going to spend, where you can live, etc. There are a lot of subjects like that is just left to these guys in Austin, in Washington, D.C., that we should have input in, but we don't. And as such, the only people that are listened to are those lobbyists who can go and advocate for a particular group of folks. And that is what you see with tax policy. With tax policy, we have in Texas, we don't have an income tax. And what we have is a property tax. And in having a property tax, we also have things like within that property tax, a homestead exemption, meaning a certain percentage of your property goes tax-free. That helps people who are low income with a very low cost home. We also have some level of tax caps. Now, meaning your rate cannot go up X percentage. I think it is currently at your tax rate, no matter what the value of your home is, cannot go up more than 10% in any particular year. So that is our tax policy to run the state. We have a sales tax and we have a property tax. And both of those taxes are considered regressive taxes, which means no matter how much no matter what you make or whatever, the value of your property is what's taxed, and that's static. That is something that is if you take a look at how taxes work, that is one of the worst type of policies you can have for taxes. But let's go to the article. The article talks about what the debate is in Austin right now. And this is a part that I find concerning, because the debate that's occurring in Austin, it's on grounds that, to me, makes no sense to the average homeowner, the average person paying these taxes, right? Remember what I said. Whatever the taxes are based on whatever the cost of your home is. And I'll give you one of the biggest disadvantages of that subsequent to this part of the article. And it goes as follows. The article says, the question of how to cut taxes for Texas property owners sparked one of the biggest fights between state lawmakers this year. But when it's all said and done, either chamber's proposal would save the typical homeowner about the cost of a nice dinner date each month. I want you to think about that again. It'll save you about the cost of a dinner date every month. Still, the two options are hardly alike. They're hardly alike. While the Senate leader, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, advocates for an increase to the state's homestead exemption meaning the amount of the value of your home that will not be taxable, House Speaker Dade Phelan put his chips on a proposal to limit how much property appraisal, a key figure in calculating a tax bill, can rise each year. The Beaumont Republican wants to tighten the state's cap on annual increases to a home taxable value from 10% to 5%, meaning in any given year, even if your house appreciates 100%, the taxable portion of your home cannot be more than 5%. Let's give a classic example. Let's say your house is worth $100,000, and I'm using that number because it's a round number, but a homestead exemption, all of that, which it makes another value better. But let's use this as a round number. If your house doubles to $20,000, you cannot be taxed more. The tax rate of your house cannot go up as if $200,000 is taxable, but only $110,000 is taxable, because your taxable rate can only go up by 5%. Okay? I mean, by 10%. So that's important, and that's sort of a good thing if you're going to have property taxes, because if your area gets gentrified, the value of your house could double in a few months, because you could live in a shack in an area that people want to live. The land value alone may be several times the value of the house that you have, and it turns out then that you have a huge tax bill to pay. So that is the guy, Dade Phelan, the Speaker of the House. He wants to put caps on based on the increase in the value of your home, while Dan Patrick wants to say we increase the homestead exemption of your house. If we increase the homestead exemption of your house, then you pay that much less taxes. Okay? Both of them, in the short term, will save taxes. In the long term, it's a stranglehold once again on middle-class America. We'll go through that a little bit later. But tightening the appraisal cap would lead to all kinds of repercussions that have already played out in California, New York, and other parts of the country. Tax experts and critics of the proposal from across the political spectrum warn. They say placing a hard limit on how much appraisals can grow would create vast inequities between taxpayers, accelerate housing costs, and disproportionately benefit wealthy homeowners. That's what a cap does, is what they're saying, right? Even interest groups that represent the kind of business the cap is intended to benefit, including the Texas Association of Business and the Texas Association of Manufacturers, have come out against it, arguing that the proposal would create an uneven playing field that would benefit longtime business owners, never new ones. And let me explain what they mean it would benefit longtime business owners. If you buy a business, or if you have a property, and that property is assessed at $200,000 this year, and next year is at $400,000, your tax rate with a 10% per year increase for that next year is only $220,000, 10% above the taxable amount, 10% above what it was before. However, that person who just bought that new property In other words, another business owner. So let's say you own a pizza shop and the assessed property value is $200,000. The next year, you are only going to pay assessed value of $220,000. However, if a new pizza shop comes into your area and that pizza, same kind of building, same thing, but remember, its value is now $400,000. You are only assessed taxes of $220 as an old business there. But that new business that comes in is assessed a taxable value of $400,000 because that is what the property is. That's the market value of the property. That new business owner is at a disadvantage to that old business owner. But let's take it a bit further. Everybody cares about business, right? So the reason it's creating an issue is because these business entities, old business and new business, are fighting each other, and that, hey, it's going to cost me more. I will be at a competitive disadvantage to the old business because my property assessed taxes will be greater than that other business. So that's creating an issue with caps right now. Notice nobody is talking about the homeowner, right? They're not talking about that same issue applies to the homeowner to some extent, right? Because the homeowner that's been there, their assessed value will simply be what based on their previous assessed values over and over and over again. While as it turns out for the other, for the new homeowner, their tax rate would be higher. Okay, now here is the other thing. If you have your own home, and this is where I talk about this is a horrendously terrible tax. Property taxes, that is, in this form. If you have a home, and I'm talking specifically for housing, etc. If you have a house, you don't have a lot of money, but you're a very resourceful person. You like to build things. So you have this $100,000 house, and you add every now and then you get over you're in the construction industry. So as you're building other people's homes, there is leftover material, and you bring that material to your home every day that you have some excess material. The owner of the home says, I don't need that material. Just take it with you, throw it away or whatever. And you bring all that material to your home. And with all that scrap material, you turn your $100,000 home into a mansion that's worth $500,000. But you're usual to an income that's only about $100,000 a year. That's all the income that you make every year. And but you are so good with your hands, you create this magnificent home. And this magnificent home is now valued at $500,000 because of your work. But it's in an, but when they assess this value, you cannot hold on to this beautiful home that you make because you can't afford the taxes, the property taxes, the new assessed value of the property taxes on that home. That is the type of issues that you have when your state depends on property taxes, on homes, etc., to raise cash. Because remember, everybody needs a home. Everybody needs an apartment. If you're in an apartment, the same things apply. A part of your rent is that apartment owner having to pay property taxes, right? So therefore, if we keep these different scenarios of property taxes, it turns out that those of us who have to have a home, who have to have live-in property, that is, we are victims of having to pay these taxes, whether we can afford it or not, simply based on things many times we don't have control of. That person has control of adding to his home, which increases its value, but he doesn't necessarily have control of the value. In other words, he doesn't have control of how much more money he can make with relative to that nice homes. He does not, or he or she does not. But they will be penalized. They will be told you cannot have nice things because you don't, even if you build it yourself, because the income that you have doesn't warrant you having that nice house. These are things that Austin's not thinking about, but somebody living in the barrio or the ghetto or Appalachia who doesn't make a lot of money, but who is resourceful with their hands, who can build things, who can help their friends build things. The state is telling them, you are forever going to live in these conditions because that is what your income warrants. That is a penalty that you have with these types of property taxes. That is a reason why a progressive income tax, a lot of people, when they hear, in Texas, we should have an income tax, and people are way against it as if it's going to cost them more. The fact of the matter is, if you have a progressive income tax that works to fulfill the needs of the budget of your state, it can be written in such a manner that it is based on your income. It has some predictability. It doesn't follow the whims of the real estate market. It works in such a manner that helps you all. Texas, in my humble opinion, should get rid of property taxes on homes, should get rid of property taxes on cars, and should create property taxes on things like assets that are passive, like what again? If you're invested in homes, if you're invested in stocks, if you're invested in these other entities, then those things should be taxable, because again, those things are determinants of wealth. But when it comes to having a home, etc., you shouldn't have to pay taxes on that, because again, it changes the value. If you take a look at how our school systems are funded, etc., it creates a certain permanency of poverty, a certain permanency of, given that you don't make a lot of money, you deserve to live a certain kind of a way. It is not an egalitarian kind of a tax system. It is not a good tax system, in my humble opinion. I think an income tax makes a hell of a lot more sense, because still, people who make a little income, no matter where they live, they can, in effect, build on their own. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. I would love to hear your thoughts on whether you still believe that we should, or whether you believe, I don't know why I said still, whether you believe we should have an income tax over a property tax on homes. Again, an income tax versus a property tax. I think we should rid ourselves. We can't do it overnight. I think we should rid ourselves of the property tax as we go more towards income tax base, because otherwise what's going to occur, and what is occurring in many areas, even here in Houston, in New York, in Baltimore, there are areas that are being gentrified. People are realizing living closer to town now has value, and they're moving back in. And to do that, they're building up places that you'd never thought would be nice. They're building up these places. And in building up these places, what's occurring is we're starting to get people that are completely priced out of their markets. It's a bad thing. It's a thing that I think hurts in the long run. I would love to hear your thoughts. 713-526-5738. Extension number 2. Are you a homeowner? Have you been following the tax schemes that we have in this state? Have you figured out how it materially affects you? These are things that we don't speak a lot or hear a lot about on regular commercial TV. We hear about it in passing. Patrick and Phelan are fighting about taxes, but they're fighting about big things that are happening to that will affect us all, that we are not privy to the discussion. Things that are affecting us all, that we are not privy to the discussion. I would love to hear your thoughts. 713-526-5738, extension 2. to get on air right away. Let's go ahead and have Sander on air. Sander, come on in.
Yeah.
You're hot, Sander.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sander. I can hear you.
Well, I'm talking about the property tax that
Yes.
you were talking about.
Yes.
Regarding the property tax, though, you were saying there's a appraise on business. There's no appraisal on business.
No, I'm talking about business property. Business property.
But there's still not a cap on a business property. There's only a cap on residential property. So you were saying that if you buy a business and your business value at 200,000, another person, but they have can only go up by 10%. That doesn't apply to business. That only applies to residential.
The proposal, as I read in the Texas Tribune for the new proposal that Phelan is putting out there, I think that's the way. That according to the Tribune, that's the way the
new proposal.
Yes,
but I don't think so. There's no cap on business. There's never been an appraisal cap on business.
No, I'm not saying that that there's a cap on business now. I'm saying that what they're debating in the Senate and the House right now is what according to this article from the Tribune is what they're talking about.
Oh, so they're trying to put a cap on businesses now. Oh, that's
right.
That's what they're trying to do. But yeah, progressive tax is good. However, the state of Texas, income tax is the best way to go. However, in the state of Texas, who's gonna write that progressive income tax? You know what I mean? Unless you got progressive here in Texas to write that tax. I mean, even if we go to state or an income tax, you got these Republicans gonna write it, then it's still gonna be at a disadvantage for you and me. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you, and that's why I'm saying, I am covering this tax issue right now. Okay, this is what they're negotiating with property taxes, etc., in Austin right now. It's a big deal that affects all of us. I mean, if both of these tax plans will save. If you have a $300,000 house, you're gonna save a lot of money. If you have a $100,000 house, not so much, right? But they're debating all these things in Austin, and there aren't a lot of programs on TV right now that's trying to inform Americans like you and I know that a progressive income tax system is better for poor and middle class folks and allow folks to pay their fair share of taxes. They don't talk about the other issue that I speak about, that is, if you're good with your hands and you really improve the value of your home, that you can be taxed out of your own home that you built with your own hands. These are things that are not discussed, that are issues with property taxes. And my contention is, Xander, is that I want more of this discussion. That's why I'm talking about it. I think if we have more of these types of discussions, people will start requesting of their Congress people, requesting of their representatives that they pass laws that affect them the way they want to affect them. I am with you 100% in that right now. If you went ahead and said income taxes, the way the Republicans would advertise that is, progressives or Democrats want to raise your taxes, not telling them that what they will do is lower their taxes. Sanders.
But also regarding the house, you said they built you add on to your house and you can't pay the taxes. The issue with that is that it's still based on the tax code. Is that we have to value, they have to value your property.
Yes.
Based on what it can sell for.
Right.
So your house is worth $100,000 and you added 2-bedroom to it. Now it's worth $500,000. So it has to be valued based on what it can sell for.
Right.
So your value moved from $100,000 to $500,000, because remember, that guy who just added that 2-bedroom, he can turn around and sell that house for $500,000.
Yes.
So that's why it kind of taxed them out of it. But I mean, yeah.
But here's what I'm saying though. He may value value that home more than he values selling it for $500,000. The fairness part about it is, if he sells it for $500,000, tax the capital gains of that house. But if he wants to stay in the house, the taxes shouldn't keep him out of the home. My thing is, having income taxes alleviates that altogether. That, you know, somebody can work with their hands and build what they want, but otherwise, you know. So I mean, that is where the fairness. Go ahead.
But you know, it's so funny. I mean, that's a good idea. Tax them on the capital gains and go back for the last 5 years, which is what you're doing already in the state of Texas. When you have an agriculture exemption land, and you try to convert that land to sell it as commercial, or you sell it as commercial land, they go back and tax for 5 years. That is great. Value on the market value of that land, even though, because you know, you have the tax exemption for the last 50 years.
Right.
And you know, Papa dies and the kids sold the property now. So now they go back 5 years on the market value of that land, because every year, even though it has the ag exempt, it has a market value also.
Exactly.
On the ag exempt value. So when you sell it, they go back 5 years. Now that's also a good idea, as you said, with a house.
I think that's a great idea, right? Because that's great, because the farmer,
that helps the person who keeps the house, you're right, to stay in his house and not paying that excess taxes. And it catches, which kind of similar to what California, you know.
Right.
You buy it for that, while you pay taxes until you die. Proposition 1 or 3.
Yeah, that was back when the Jarvis days in California. Yeah, but you're absolutely right, Zen. So I mean, but what I think we need is more people talking about these both homeowners and renters, because it affects both of them. But right now, what we do is we seed all this conversation to. If you notice, all the people that are commenting in the article here, they're commenting about they're commenting from a business point of view, not from a homeowner's point of view. So the only people that lawmakers are really listening to is, how is this going to affect business, as they always do, instead of how is this going to affect us all. So anyhow, anything else you want to add, Xander?
And every time, you're right, every time they change the tax code, it affects the small guy. Every time you see they rewrite it and redo it, change it, every time they do that, it messed up the small guy. The problem is the small guy doesn't know that. And as you said, most people say don't even educate themselves on the property tax system. You know, I still support a progressive tax system, but the system that they got is not really, it's not, if they do it right, it can help the small guy. The problem is when they write it, it's still not helping them.
Exactly. Who are they listening to? And we need to make sure that we educate the population so that they will have a voice. So look, thank you very much, Xander, for your insightful commentary.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.
All right, let's go to Steve. Come on in, Steve. Steve, you're on. Turn the radio down, Steve, but you're on.
Hot on this side. Good morning. Love the topic today on income taxes. So basically, if you have a $200,000 home and you're a homesteader, you're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 a year in the Houston area. But the average home price is, like you said, closer to about $500,000 in the Houston area. And that includes Kingwood. But once you get out to Beaumont, maybe $500,000 is like $1 million house over here. So on the average side, I guess your taxes, you're paying somewhere around $8,000 a year. Now, once you get up in the $1 million plus zone, hopefully you have those resources to pay all those taxes, and then they get up to like the $20,000 a year zone. But my question is, where is the value we're getting out of these taxes? A lot of it's supposed to go to education, and with the government we have with Abbott, where are we getting the value of, spending 6, 7, 8% of our income every year if we're on the lower end of income?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of value that we should be getting in better education for the education part of the taxes. But of course, the educational part of the taxes are generally passed by your school district. But as far as the state taxes, what's the value? Supposedly great roads, supposedly great universities, supposedly all these things. But what you've noticed over the last several years is, what does Texas have? A $30+ billion surplus that they're somehow hoarding in trying to find a way to pay off or give it to businesses. So your question is a very valid question. I think Steve, that we are collecting enough taxes that we can have things like great health care for all our citizens that are not receiving health care right now. We could have great child care so that we can have a better and expanding market of workers for all the work that could be done here in Texas that we're not doing. We're not a forward-thinking state. We just think tax cut, or for the taxes that we're collecting right now, we hoard it. That's why Texas has a over $30 billion surplus. That should tell you something, Steve.
That's a lot of money, and we definitely know it's not going to HISD. And what? One more question: what other states are doing better than we are, and what stops us from moving to a state, that gives us better value?
Well, I tell you, people can. You just hit it there. People can, and in the long run, those who have what's called mobility. There are some people that are stuck where they are. There's not a good way. They don't have a good way to move to some other state or to move to a better location, and it's just too difficult for them. And believe it or not, mobility in Texas is not very good for Texans. Mobility for people out of California, New York, Connecticut, those guys can get your education in a state that invests in them, higher tax state, in a state that has all these different values added, right? I mean, it's fun. In morning, Joe was talking about that when there was a debate, and I played a piece of the video here, a debate between Sean Hannity and Gavin Newsom from California. And Gavin Newsom said, yeah, we're in a high tax state, but all the businesses move here because they get value. You just asked about value. They get the value in the services that the state provide. A very educated population, resources that businesses can use to grow. And then Sean Hannity says, but they leave afterwards. He said, yeah, of course, in a capitalist structure, what happens is these guys maximize their value. And if they can build their companies great in California, and after their company is aged, move to California and move to Texas and pay next little taxes, they do that. But what that does is it's good for the shareholders of that company. It's good for that company, but it's not good for the born Texans. The born Texans continue without health care. The born Texans continue with a substandard education for most. I mean, those who went to the University of Texas, A&M, and all these other universities, they do great. They would do great in any state. But the others in Texas, they continue to live the life of, when you live a life of misery for quite a while, you don't necessarily know the kind of misery that you're living in. So that's pretty much the answer as I see it, Steve. Steve, anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Oh, just an excellent reason to vote, whether you're a renter or a homeowner, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anyhow, thank you very much for calling, Steve. Need to run to Carol.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day. Carol, come on in. How can what would you like to add to the discussion?
Okay, what I'd like to add is I think we are pound wise and penny foolish, or the other way around, penny foolish and pound wise. What we're doing is we're forcing a lot of people into foreclosure with these additional taxes. I'm living on the outskirts of Houston, okay? And there is a blog called Next Door, and people right now are talking about how much their property taxes went up, and their homeowners went up, their homeowners association, and their mortgage went up. Everything went up. And these people, a lot of these people were right on the edge anyway. And there's going to be they claim that these extra taxes will help the poor, but you don't understand you're adding to the poor when you increase these taxes. I mean, it's a conundrum. It really is. And elderly people, I don't know what they will do. Even with an exemption, their taxes are going up as well. So, there's a real problem here. We're contributing to the problem instead of solving it. With added taxes aren't going to solve anything.
Carol, you are a very smart woman, and thank you for bringing up next door and how, I wish some of our senators and Congress people saw what's happening to real people on next door, because you brought up several issues that I want to touch on. You brought up that a lot of the people's property taxes are increasing. Why? Because of what again? Their appraised value is increasing because of a false market. The second thing that's happening is many people were enticed, because a lot of people don't know financing well, etc. They were, or sometimes it made more sense. They were enticed into a variable rate interest program for their loan, so that they could afford a reasonable home that they have. So what that means is with the feds trying to bring down inflation on the backs of poor and middle class people, what they do is they increase interest rates so that people would, instead of giving money to buy more bikes or buy a gift or buy these things, they have to pay more interest on their credit cards. They have to pay more interest on their mortgage, etc. In other words, given the monies,
yep, you got it.
Giving the monies right back to the banks. Additionally, by having a property tax in the first place on homes, what it means is that you're putting those people at a disadvantage. Let me tell you something, Carol. Your home is owned property. That's it's something you own. You know what else is something owned? You see that rich person who owns 2 and 3 or 4 homes as investments? You see that rich person who owns stocks, who owns bonds? All those people, right? They are wealthy and they have property. But we decided to elect politicians that tell those people who owns stock, who owns all these other forms of property, we are not going to tax you on those properties unless you sell them. But you, Carol, who owns a home, they are telling you every year, Carol, you're going to pay a little percentage on the value of that property you have. A disadvantage for the average middle class and poor person.
There's something else right here. Let me just interject this little thing. Okay. Someone who called in was talking about the big increase in value when they sold their home for $500,000. But the problem is you got to live somewhere. Now go try to find for $500,000, because these prices are going up and up and up because of the influx of people from California and other places where this is a bargain for them. You know, and that's happened. Plus, the infrastructure cannot bear this influx of population. We've got traffic jams that we never had before. We've got accidents. We've got everything is increased, and you've got everybody wants you to believe that the homeless people are all drug addicts and alcoholics and mentally ill.
Oh, no.
That's not true. There are a lot of people, and somebody better point this out. There are a lot of folks out there who were foreclosed, who lost their house and couldn't afford, and the rents are up. Apartments, they're tacking up apartments all along the Grand Parkway. Okay. Deposit, move into the apartment. Everything's fine until the next year when the lease is renewed and it's double what it was before. And then comes the foreclosure. And these people are out on the street, you know? I mean, it's a gradual descent, but it happens.
Let me tell you, all of this is because we have an economic system that says this. First of all, if you're a stock owner, you want your stock to grow at least 7% per year, which makes no sense, right? at steady state, and guess what stocks are? Stocks are in REITs, REITs are rental properties that's capitalized. You can have your all these people that make money off of money. They don't do any work. They own property and all of that, and you are just a subject, right, Carol? You are a subject. The things that we are trying to do here at KPFT as far as informing folks, right, is most people just go and you spoke about the rent doubling. You speak about your rate, your interest rates, your rates going up on your home. You talk about all these different things that are going up on people, and a lot of people just think that's the way it is, right? That's the way it is based on the type of economic system we have. It does not have to be that way, but I don't know if let me tell you something. Sales expands, cellular growth can be exponential. And let me explain this, and I want everybody to get this right. The reason why our society worked for a long time under this economic system, right, is because constant doubling it starts out very small at first, but then it explodes. Right. Let me explain it to people. If you have if 2 becomes exponential growth, look like this. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 16. 16 becomes 32,000. 32,000 becomes, and what I'm saying is the way it grows exponentially, right? At first it is acceptable, but then it just explodes. We are in the portion of our economic system now where things just explode in cost in order to maintain those who have an inordinate amount of wealth growing at the same rate that they want to grow. And it affects us all.
You know what KPFT could do? Do you know what would, and this sounds ridiculous, I guess, you should design a board game like Monopoly that would teach people at that level how to, at the level of board games, how to see this thing, because people cannot see these things. You're right on the money, but it needs to be explained in a better way to people who are struggling right now and complaining on next door about, oh my God, how am I going to pay taxes and homeowners and blah, blah, blah.
But here's this, Carol, you play a part as well. Let me tell you how you play a part, and it doesn't cost you anything. And for Steve and for everybody that calls, you play a part. Just as well that exponential growth happens on a financial level for the wealthy, exponential knowledge transfer can occur as well. And what that means is you're speaking to me right now, and you have an audience that's listening to you right now. And Steve was speaking, he has an audience, and Xander was speaking, and they have an audience, right? And the thing about it is not to be in that permanent state of despair. It's in that permanent state of informing your fellow brothers and sisters. It's in that permanent state of saying, I am going to make a difference. I am not going to sit down and be a victim. I'm going to go on next door, and I'm going to tell folks, that's how it is now. Let's change it. How do we change it? And we start the marching plan. And one person turns into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 16, 16 into 256, 250, and that's how we do it, right?
Very good.
And so,
yeah.
And so what I'm saying, for everybody listening to my voice, everybody that's listening to Carol right now, it's not over. You are not a victim. You are the ones who put those people into office, who write the laws to serve you. We still have one person, one vote. We have to remove ideology. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. The rates are affecting you just the same. The only difference is you were lied to if you're a Republican that's saying that it's us liberals who made these rates like this and causing inflation. Well, no, it's not.
Well, I beg to differ. I think all politicians lie to a certain degree, whether they're a liberal or a conservative. It's a game. It's too bad it's the way it is.
You're not different with me at all. You're not different with me at all, Carol. I agree with that 100%. What I said when I said liberals, I'm not talking about liberals politicians. I'm talking about liberals, okay, or progressives. I like to call them people who want to do the things that you want done. That's who I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay. That's who I'm talking about. Anyway, Carol, anything else you want to say before we go on to the next subject?
Well, I'm trying to formulate my thoughts about eminent domain. That is another way that property will be
taken away.
And that's happening. And I don't think people are aware of how much is being taken in that regard. I know that the present governor has enacted some new rules about that, but it takes a long time to get from the governor down to the people that are affected by this thing.
Well,
and I think the middle class is disappearing.
Let me tell you something, Carol. Don't depend on the governor. Don't depend on any of them, Democrats or Republicans. Depend on what we have to do. Let's depend on what we have to do. I want to tell folks this. Look, the things that affect all of us, independent of party or ideology, are more so than the things that affect us because of party or ideology. Everybody who has a home are going through the same thing right now. Everybody.
They are. Yes.
Everybody.
Yep.
So, Carol, thank you so kindly for calling. And let me throw this.
Well, thank you for listening.
It flew today.
Yeah, and thank you very much.
You have a wonderful day. Hey, Howard, come on in and tell us about the Texas Lotto, that stuff that should have been for education.
That's right. That's how they sold it to the public when we voted the lotto in. The lotto was actually voted in by the citizens. And they said, well, it's really going to help out public education. A good portion of this is going to go to public education. And a few years ago, they did a audit on them, and hardly any was going to public education. So we wonder just how many dollars we spend in the lotto, which, I must say I buy lotto tickets, but how many dollars go into the general pot? And why do we have a $30 billion surplus? That means they've been taxing us too much.
Yes.
What it also means is I feel a soapbox coming on about voting. Let's vote them out. We got to vote them out, people. Vote them out.
Howard, and what you just said, they're taxing us too much and they're not providing the services that we need. Both things, right? I mean,
exactly. When you got a $30 billion, go ahead. When you got a $30 billion surplus, why do we not have better health care in this state? Why do we not have better roads in this state? Why do we have polluted air in this state? $30 billion can go a long way for good health care, good housing. And I'm not talking about a palace. I'm talking about a reasonable place to live. Why do we not have this? These are the questions you've got to answer or ask when you're standing there at that voting booth going, okay, we don't have this, but we've been taxed. We've had the devil taxed out of us, and they're taking our property. They're doubling our property taxes. No, I'm going to vote you out. This is not working, people. It's not working. So there you have it.
Exactly right. And again, folks, you don't have a $30 billion surplus when you have Texans dying every day from the lack of health care, which the federal government is providing at 90%, Howard. 90%. 90% the federal government will pay for. Texans are already paying for that Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act that Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, and Dade Phelan are refusing to bring up into a law that allows our Texans to get insurance already afforded to over 40, I think it's over 38, or I don't remember how many states are there now. Every state right now is paying into that fund that would give all people, all poor people, all middle class people that can't afford health insurance, it would give them health insurance, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. We have a $30 billion surplus, and we still refuse to provide that service to Texans. I don't know what is more evil, Howard. I don't know. I don't know what is more evil.
It's hard to say. But again, people, vote them out.
Okay, hold on. I'll put you
okay,
on.
I think Johnny, we're processing Johnny right now to get him in here. Johnny's going to want to chime in on what's going on. And you don't have much time, so we're going to have to Johnny
while Johnny puts the next line on call. Johnny, before the next person come in, chime in real quickly, Johnny. I want to hear your point of view.
$30
I'm not.
billion.
Wait, not Johnny. I mean Jack. Jack, hold on, Johnny. I'm coming to you in a second. Jack, I want to hear your point of view.
It's your turn. We want to hear from you. He was busy processing Johnny. So
Right.
Jack,
I want to hear his point of view. Talk to me, Jack, real quick.
Well, I'm not a homeowner. I can't speak to property taxes. I've tried to not get into that situation because
Well, speak on what you can, sir.
Okay, Carl Rose said he wanted to bring back the robber baron. Looks like he's succeeding.
Well, thoughtful statement, and we are going to make sure he doesn't succeed, Jack. Remember what you and I had breakfast once, and I looked at you and I said, that is what keeps me going, not making those things happen. We won't let them succeed. Come on in, Johnny.
If we've got a $30 billion so-called surplus, maybe it's not really a surplus. Maybe the people who are running this government into the ground are refusing to pay teachers what they need. That's why we have a mass exodus of teachers. That's why we resort to Teach for America and charter school scams. How about we pay teachers properly, rehire the teachers that left? I'd like to hear that new board from Austin. I'd like to hear what they plan to do with some of that surplus, which they haven't been utilizing. And yeah, I brought this up about the lottery. The lottery was another big scam. Remember those TV ads back in the day?
Yes.
Showing a literal closet with their teacher and a light bulb and a bunch of kids with no textbooks. They're good at messaging, but they're lousy at governance.
Okay. Hey, Johnny, you're, as usual, excellent commentary, but we're out of time and we got to go. Thank you so kindly for listening all of the time. Thank you for calling in and letting us, giving us that good message. Folks, I got to get out of here. Howard's going to throw me off in a minute. I want to thank Jack Van Beber answering the phones, Howard making sure all those connections are made. Together, we couldn't do it without Howard. Remember, folks, I want to end on a positive note. We are not victims. We not because you're victimized mean you are a victim. We can fight out of the crap that comes out of Austin, Washington, and everywhere else. This is our country, as Howard constantly says. We need to vote. Thank you so kindly, Jack Van Beber. Thank you so kindly, Howard. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And folks, you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.